You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life. Now, you would probably recognize those lyrics if I sang them. I have spared you. Did you know that Canadian Alan Thicke wrote the theme song for the longest-running TV sitcom of the 80s? For 9 years, Lisa Whelchel played the role of Blair Warner on NBC's The Facts of Life. And many of the chapters of Lisa's life and career are in this delightful book, The Facts of Life and Other Lessons My Father Taught Me. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
It's a treat to meet you in person.
It's good to be here.
And yeah, I'm still wrestling with this formerly shy wallflower from Texas who got stolen away to Hollywood at just 12.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because the reason my shyness is what got me into acting in the first place, helped me overcome my shyness. And
you even took on ventriloquism.
yes, just try to, somehow get outside myself, and even, I guess, through a puppet. And so whether it's through a puppet or through a role, then it has enabled me to express myself more. But I'm still shy off stage. And I don't think that's really that unusual for performers. Many performers, and comedians especially, find an outlet through a role to be able to be more expressive when they feel more fear one-on-one.
This is true. That's why they enjoy it so much. Now, it was cool to read that the Disney people only needed 5 minutes with you to say, she's a Mouseketeer. This girl is going to be one of ours. And you were, I guess, 13 when this started?
I was 12.
You were 12?
When it first started, yes, when I auditioned for the Mickey Mouse Club.
And how long did the new Mickey Mouse Club
Just a
keep
couple
you
of years.
engaged?
Just a couple of years. But it had ultimately moved me from Texas to California. And then after the Mickey Mouse Club, I stayed there and continued to do other things until I got the role of The Facts of Life.
Now, you are very clear that you were a tomboy. And thankfully, with the encouragement of a friend, you decided you wanted somewhere to wear a dress. Just that novel experience. Where did that
Yes.
dress take you to?
Because I only had one dress. It was just, I didn't want one. I had been in my cousin's wedding, so I had this dress. And so we just thought it was like playing dress up with a real dress. But there's not a lot of places 10-year-olds can go on their own dressed up. So my little friend said, well, I know what. Why don't we get up in the morning? She was spending the night on a Saturday night. Why don't we get up in the morning and we'll go down to that little church at the end of your street? And I thought that was a brilliant idea. I wasn't raised in a church going home, and so this sounded like quite the adventure. So we hopped on our bicycles the next morning and rode down the street to the little church in our dresses, and I discovered something that changed my life.
You have to tell us.
Okay, I discovered that they had been serving donuts and orange juice down there every Sunday morning in Sunday school.
That would keep you coming back.
Yes, because that was back in the day where we got donuts once a year at Easter Sunday. And so the fact that there was a possibility I could have donuts every Sunday kept me coming back until eventually it was for more than the donuts. But I really couldn't have put these words to it at the time. It's just, it felt like every time I walked through those church doors, it felt like my heart had found its home. And my Sunday school teacher told me that what I was feeling was the love of Jesus, and that I could ask Jesus to come into my heart and I could take that love home with me. And I thought, well, I want that. And so I prayed and I asked Jesus to come into my heart and to be my Savior. And maybe that's why he tells us to come to him as little children, because I didn't even know what I was doing. I just sensed the love of God and responded to it in knowing my need for it. And it stuck.
It's hard to imagine a relationship with Jesus Christ surviving Hollywood, but you took him there. And as people read the chapters of your book, they're going to see that you were very committed to pleasing him in your career.
I was aware of my need from an early age. And so, and the facts of life and other lessons my father taught me, I'm referring to my Heavenly Father because although I obviously have a biological father, I have a closer relationship with God as a very practical parent, and that he is really the one that has taught me the life's lessons. And so when I moved to California, especially being on my own, I was very dependent on him, and listened and obeyed as my father. And I do believe that that is what kept me from going down some of the paths that the typical child star might go down looking for something to fill up that emptiness that we all have, but thankfully that emptiness was filled up when I was 10.
We're going to show a clip from
Okay.
1979, I think. Yeah. No, I think you started in 79. This is 1980.
Okay.
And here's the cast. Here's your Hollywood family from
That's
The
George
Facts of
Clooney up at the
Life.
top. You recognize him?
Oh, man, look at the hair.
I know, I know.
Some changes in the casting over the years.
Yes, yes.
But
He joined, I think, years 6, 7, and 8.
okay, let's take a look at your character in this segment from 1980, The Facts of Life.
Listen, I'd go in a minute, but we can't get into the bar. We're both underage, and they ask for IDs.
So, we'll give them IDs.
You're not 18. That ID is faked.
Yeah, I do beautiful work, don't I? And I always carry a spare. That I can fake for you. All I need is a picture. It's simple.
Simple for you, but my goodness, which picture will I use? This one's nice. I'm smiling without being too toothy. Oh, this one's at the height of my tan. Coconut oil. No, this is it. This is it. I'm wearing sizzling pink lip quencher. I don't know. This one's pretty marvelous.
Who cares? Is it a deal or isn't it?
It's a deal.
I think the third season, you were faced with a potential compromise that didn't work for you, and you put your foot down.
I think, actually, I think it was before coming into the second season. We had just, in the first season, we had about 7 different girls, and then they had made some cuts. They only kept 3 of us girls and then added Nancy McKeon, who played Jo. So it was a very tenuous situation as it was. And before we started the season, we had a meeting with the producers ahead of time. They told us the trajectory of the characters and the shows that season. And they mentioned in passing, well, we can't have a show called The Facts of Life and not deal with that issue. So we're going to have Blair lose her virginity this season. And I don't know what else was said during that meeting because I was stuck there thinking, oh my goodness, I can't do that. I don't know what to say. I don't have, what if they fire me? But I knew that there's no way I could do that. And so I just afterwards went up and I just said, you know, I know there are a lot of young girls that watch this show. And I don't know that you can really deal with that issue in 17 minutes and a couple of commercials. And I would just rather not take that responsibility for the weight of this decision in some girls' lives who really do take their cues from television. And I was really surprised that, you know, they thought about it and they actually respected my care for the viewers, and we didn't do that issue.
You gave up $55,000 making that decision. That's how much you made an episode. Wow. As just a young teenager.
I know. And
was that a terrible temptation or
you know,
how did you handle
that's one of
that?
the reasons why I wouldn't let my children go into show business, because it's a lose-lose situation. Either they're very successful and they have money and freedom and opportunities that they are not mature enough to handle, or they're not successful and they go out on auditions and they're rejected every other day and said they're too fat, too skinny, too tall, not good enough, not, you know, whatever. So no, that is definitely one of the downsides of being a child star. It, ironically, is the amount of money that is put into the hands of young people who don't know how to spend it. And I was certainly one of them.
Well, a comforting thing was that your grandmother came to live with you there in Hollywood.
Yes.
That was a positive. But you talk about the high price for fame. You say they hired nutritionists, therapists, hypnotists to get Blair back after the actors' strike and you'd been back home in Texas for 6 months. They were not happy with your weight.
No, you know, puberty is an awkward time. So going through puberty is one thing. Going through puberty on television is a whole nother level of awkward. And, you know, I was eating for comfort. My mom and dad were going through a divorce. I was living in California basically on my own, although my grandmother and I had guardians. My mom came when she could. But I really was turning to food for comfort. And, you know, between hormones and turning to food for comfort, I gained about 20 pounds over the break and came back. And I had I'd basically outgrown the role and my Eastland Academy uniform. And they made it very clear that they had hired me to play a part that looked a certain way, that they wanted to write the jokes around her obsession with food and boys, not food, boys and money and looks. And I needed to either lose that weight or lose my job.
Yeah, how did your faith hold through those kind of pressures?
What was interesting is, you know, it was my job, and so those were my circumstances, but the issues that I faced as a teenager were issues that any teenager faces, and looks and body image, that's just one aspect that happened to show up on television. But for me, like any other issues we go through, should we know enough to invite the Lord into the middle of them, He can redeem them. In this particular situation, that was the time where I really learned how important it was to set aside some time just to be with the Lord and be filled with Him. And discovering that, you know, when Jesus said that to His disciples, He had bread that they knew not of, and that it was His relationship with the Father. And as a teenager, learning that there really is a fullness that comes from perhaps just emptying ourselves and being with the Lord. And it really transformed my walk with Him. I'd love to say that I lost 20 pounds and never gained another calorie, but it really did change everything from the inside out, especially my perceptions of what was really important.
It seems that every chapter you've made a blessing. And, you know, we had Michael Skupin here.
Yes.
Your buddy.
Yes.
On the 25th Survivors Philippines adventure. And it sounded as if you two Christians had a mission on that particular adventure. Give us your take on it.
Well, I was so thrilled day one when he was introduced, and I recognized him immediately, and not only from the show, but also because I knew he was a Christian.
You were runners-up together,
Yes.
and you were personally chosen by the fans as Player of the Season. You know, your latest book, Friendship for Grown-Ups, What I Missed and Learned Along the Way, talks about being approached by a Hollywood interviewer who asked if you would please not use the term God, but refer to universe or higher power. What was your response to that reporter?
Well, I just explained that anytime, even when I'm speaking at churches, I'm very upfront. I'm not a preacher, I'm not a teacher, I just like to talk, and I talk stories. Friendship for Grown-Ups is really just my story about learning about friendships as a grown-up, because I missed that when I was on The Facts of Life. I was working and learned it in my 40s about how to be a friend, how to have a friend. And so doing the publicity for the book, that's when this conversation came up. And I said, I can only talk out of my own experience. And my experience is very much a very personal relationship with God. And so if I'm going to talk from my experience, I need to talk authentically.
Thank you for spending this time and being so authentic with us. Lisa's books, The Facts of Life and Other Lessons My Father Taught Me, and Friendship for Grown-Ups, both available at our e-store.